is just how much your life was changed, not just because you're beautiful babies, but I'm not gonna give, I often start this with so many spoiler alerts, babies everywhere, dogs, cats, you name it. And today we don't have that. So we don't know what happened in your story, which is so exciting. But thank you so much, guys, for coming in and sharing your experience through the Fertility Breakthrough Program. And what I'd always love to start with is, how did you know that you actually needed help? Like, what happened that was like, okay, we better do something about this?
So for us, I always knew when we started trying to conceive, I always knew within sort of 3 months that things weren't going to be easy, unfortunately. Um, and no one ever believed me. um, but we were eventually diagnosed with unexplained infertility. And with
So we love that diagnosis. Means absolutely zero, but
Yeah, I
yes.
know, it's so frustrating. And it was just, we eventually, before we got to you, we'd gone through sort of 6 years of 6 or 7 years of trying to conceive.
Yeah.
Numerous rounds of IVF. We'd had 4 miscarriages. Only one of them had been a natural pregnancy. And we tried so many other things, like all the other sort of complementary therapies. So acupuncture, Chinese medicine, reflexology, fertility massage. I've gone to psychics and spiritual sort of people. We did fertility yoga. I taken nutrition advice. Looked at Reiki, detoxing, retreats. You name it, we'd pretty much tried it. And when you go through all of those rounds of IVF and they just don't work, and to the point that we even got to, we had embryos, but they just wouldn't take. And it was just an emotional roller coaster. It was just treatment after treatment, after cycle. Obviously, our family and friends around us getting pregnant. And for me, I was just feeling the biggest failure ever. And I knew I needed something different, but I didn't know what that looked like because I felt like we tried everything.
Yeah. Isn't it? But I mean, just from the enumeration, I feel like I need a longer arm to write it all down, It's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, you guys did before finding us, obviously a whole lot of things. Sanjay, how was that for you? Like, how was it when Hema every time was like, okay, I'm going to do this next thing? What did that feel like for you?
Well, I just want to first of all state that in those 7 years or 6 years, it wasn't. It became apparent very quickly that it's not just about Hema and the woman having and the issue. I obviously had to step up. I think after we did our first round of IVF, thinking, okay, hey, IVF provides that kind of some sort of hope. It should be the thing, the said thing, and that will be it. We should be able to move along and get going with our family and starting off with it. So, at that point we realized that okay, it hasn't worked, and that is there something on my part that could be
Did you think that straight away? Like, because I mean, that's pretty early for a man. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but society tells us that fertility is a woman's issue, right?
Sure,
And so that was pretty avant-garde thinking on your part, to be thinking, wow, this is something that I might need to do something about. Like, what prompted that?
I think, well, firstly, the unexplained is obviously the unexplained bit because it could, there's two people to tango here. So, it could have been any one of the two of us. And I think that predominantly was the case, where I thought, well, hold on a minute, Hema's done. And we've done all the, pretty much quite a few tests at the time. Of getting to that point, and I just thought, okay, the doubt crept in to say, well, is there something on mine? And yes, you're right. We don't, as guys, don't really talk about it between us anyway. That's for sure. But there was also a small doubt in my mind that okay, there could be something on my part. Let's get it checked out. And, you know, at that point, you get to that kind of a situation and point where you think, well, actually now we just need to test as much as we can. And maybe both of us need to be tested for, just in case there is something there. But yeah, you know, for me, it was obviously supporting Hema, because it's a mental drain, emotional drain. It's so many things going on in Hema's head, more than mine at least. But I knew, you know, maybe not 100%, but I knew kind of what she was going through to some extent. And then it was a case of, look, I want to do as much as I can, you know, to try and help the situation. So if it means, you know, being tested for or going down that route, then let's do it. Because, you know, once you're in that space, you just want to have the baby, right?
You also want answers as well.
And you want the answers to work off. You know, the unexplained, I guess, doesn't really take you anywhere.
No.
It doesn't.
I mean, there's very little you can do with that, right?
Yeah. So again, we wanted to get to those answers, I guess.
Yeah, and it's also every test that you do, you almost feel like you want something to be wrong, because that way you know that there's a problem that can potentially
and you can do something, or maybe you could do something, or at least you would have an answer as to why you can't do something. You know, I can understand that. You know, and I think also, you know, and this is the little bracket that I always open when we have this conversation about unexplained, which is just because somebody hasn't taken the time to really deeply understand reference ranges versus optimal ranges in a clinical setting, i.e., you know, sure, you only have 5 minutes with your doctor, who will very quickly look at reference ranges and go, yeah, normal, fine, not, or at least not abnormal. But there is a huge difference when we're talking about fertility between not abnormal and optimal. You know, there's a chasm in there that usually lands couples with an unexplained infertility diagnosis, because it's like, well, this is fine.
It's normal,
exactly. Therefore, just keep trying. It's a numbers game. And it's like, oh my God. So I don't know if you felt that frustration, but I feel that frustration on a moment to moment basis in my day to day. You know, every conversation I have, I'm like going, oh my God.
But then the thing is, you don't know what you don't know as well. So we didn't feel that frustration initially. And I do remember it was a few years before I said, just because, well, no, I think, what was it that I said? It was something along the lines of, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you don't.
I even said that to the doctor. I remember saying, you're saying it's unexplained, but it's not. You just haven't done the right tests to get me to an answer.
Oh, you would have been so popular, Hema.
Oh, I know.
Great patient.
I know.
If you're as popular as me, geez.
But I've always been that kind of person that I want answers. I want to understand. And for me, what does unexplained even mean? That was, that was the frustration for me. It was just, you know, that's not good enough.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so going back to that question of, you know, Sanjay, when Hema would bring you a next thing and a next thing and a next thing, how was that? Like, was that welcomed, or was it like, okay, there has to be a limit here? Like, where were you at with all of that?
No, I think both of us had the willpower. We also had the determination to have the family we always wanted. And I think that got stronger and stronger as we went through this journey. So for me, it was really just whatever the next thing was, you know, whatever we needed to try out next. And, you know, as Hema said, you know, we literally went to lengths of trying stuff, you know, either came across something on, I don't know, social media or by research or by whatever means it was, we were willing to take it on. I think the other thing Hema may not have mentioned was that we also started reading books around law of attraction and changing our whole mindset around not being jealous or being, you know, down, you know, feeling down about others getting pregnant and stuff, and actually being grateful for what we've got, the two of us, knowing that, you know, this thing and this dream will come true at some point, and just being patient and being supportive of each other and being strong and all of those good things. And that, I think, really helped. And the funny thing about that is we literally got to, I don't know, a series of books that we learned this off and started preaching. And then Hema came across your advert on Facebook, and it was literally, the timing was impeccable.
It was crazy.
It's just...
Yeah, but it took us a long time to get there. I mean, it was like 6-7 years before we got to that point of thinking in that way. But before that, it was, to be honest, it was Sanj that kind of kept going. We need to keep going. We need to keep going. We need to keep going. I was at the point where I was just drained, physically, mentally, emotionally drained from the failures, I guess. And there was a point where we were about to start another cycle of IVF, and I literally said to him, I don't want to do it. And he went, no, we have to, because what if? Are we going to be able to live with the what ifs? And I was just like, I am so tired of this. You know, I can't keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And the only thing that got me to the point of doing that round of IVF again was because I know how much he wanted it. So it wasn't so much me finding it all and just getting on with it and him supporting me. It was the other way around. I was almost doing it for him more than myself, because I'd gotten to the point where I was just like, if it doesn't happen for us, can I live with that? And I'd gotten to the point where I was thinking, actually, we have a lovely relationship. And, you know, as long as we have that, then as much as we want children, would it be the be all and end all? So it had gotten to that point, I think, before we found you.
Yeah, and I mean, gosh, you know, by the time you've spent 7 years trying, 4 miscarriages, 3 IVF cycles, like it's not for the faint of heart. You know, I think that what you're describing is definitely common to hear, that people just like feel like, okay, I don't know that I can keep going. And some people even at this stage will go, no, that this is it, you know, I've done my bit. But I think that it's lovely, you know, to hear you talk about the support that you had for each other. And, you know, it's so common to hear the other story, you know, where the men are like dragged into the Zoom call with me and they're sitting there like, and I'm like, oh, good day to you as well. You know? You did, you really did. You know, but it's I think that all of that makes a huge difference, you know, to the outcome at the end of the day. But most importantly, how you also go through it, you know, because it is definitely a journey that's not easy. So after you stumbled upon the gods of Facebook, you know, serving you, what is it that you found, by the way? Was it the challenge? Was it a book? What was it?
So basically, we had been through this one round of IVF, and I'd gone into the clinic for my pregnancy test, and I was on the way home when, actually no, I went from the clinic, and I had to hang around for a bit anyway. I went from the clinic, there's a temple nearby. Now, I'm not a religious person by any means, more spiritual, but this one temple is where we got married, actually. And it just is such a peaceful place. I just went there just to get a bit of composure and just, you know, chill out a bit and get in that sort of positive frame of mind. And then I was on the train on the way home, and I got a call to say, unfortunately, it's a negative result on the pregnancy test. And I was literally on the train in absolute hysterics, just crying my eyes out, because for me this was the last attempt. And I remember getting home, literally I cried all the way home from the station as well, got home, and I literally collapsed at the bottom of the staircase. Just, I've never cried so much. I didn't even have the nerve to call him.
Tell me.
Because my heart was just broken. And I didn't want to do that to him. And in fact, I sort of cried and cried and cried for about 2 hours. And then I was just like, I need to get this off my chest. Who can I call? And I phoned my dad. And I said, Dad, we've just had this round of IVF. And I just got a call to say it didn't work. And he, can I swear?
It's all yours. It's your
His
show.
first and only words were shit. And he went, shit, 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 shit. And he just carried on saying it, and he didn't know what else to say. And then he went, you're strong. You're my girl. You're strong. And I was just like, for me, that's all I needed to hear. And then I literally got off the phone, and then he messaged me. And it was early afternoon by this point, and he messaged me going, have you heard anything back yet? And I went, it hasn't worked. And he went, why didn't you call me and tell me? He said, I'm coming home now. And he literally came home. And by that time, I was a bit more composed. I cried myself out, and he got home, and we just stood there and had a hug, and just, I think you probably cried as well at that point. And it was on that same day where I saw that Facebook advert that afternoon. And I'd seen it a few times before, but I hadn't really paid attention to it. Yeah, exactly. Like, you see things as you're scrolling and whatever, but I didn't really pay attention. And I was just like, I said to him, maybe we can try this. I mean, it's a long shot, but maybe we can. And then we were umming and ahhing, and I stepped out of the house, and I'd literally said to the universe earlier that day, I was just like, just give me a sign. Like, just give me a sign. Is this the end of the road, or is this what we should be doing, as in the program? And I stepped out of the house, and as I came back into the house, there was this white feather on the doorstep. And I just went, that's my sign. And I went to him, and I was like, we're doing this program. And that was it. But it was literally the last hope that we had. It was just, if this doesn't work, I don't know what else can work. So yeah.
Oh my God. You know, I have this little thing that I never speak about, but this just like, it's so uncanny. Like, I even have, I feel.
Sorry.
Like, I feel emotional about you telling this story that I didn't even know. Like, seriously. The reason being, it's really interesting because, as you know, I have done this work for a long time. And oh, wow.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not usually the one crying in these sessions.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's just so touching because for the longest time, I think probably ever since I started doing this work, I have this little prayer that I make, which is, bring me the people whom I can help, for whom this is an answered prayer.
Wow.
Oh my God, it definitely was. Look at us.
Wow,
Yeah,
I was not expecting you to make me cry today.
Sorry. I expected you to make us cry because, look, I got my box of tissues right here.
Yeah, it's not common. This is not how this is meant to go. But but it's so beautiful because it just goes to show, that it's a two-way street. I think that this is the thing that really makes, for me, the work that I do mean so much and is so valuable, is knowing that this is what happens, that the people who need us are the people who find us, and at the right time. And that's just beautiful. That to me, that honestly, truly, and deeply is what keeps me going, and what keeps me going for decades, and decades to come, because I feel that there is still so much that needs to be accomplished in this area, in this field. And so so anyway, oh gosh, okay, this is moving on from my story, going back to yours. So then you found us, and then you saw the feather, and the feather told you, yes, this is what we're doing. And so what happened next?
Well, we I guess
We had the call with you.
We applied. We had the call, and I was just going to say, I just want to make a point about the call. Now, from what you just told me, I vividly remember when we got on the call with you. You said to us, "How much do you want this to happen?" You know, like it really touched a note because I still recall it. And I know we said to you, we will do absolutely anything for this dream to come true, anything. And obviously, when we got started on your program, we realized how much we had to change. but, you know, we told you we were going to do this, and we did it. And we did make those changes, and we'll come to that as well, I'm sure. But those things at first were just like, whoa, wow, this is a lot of this is a life-changing kind of changes almost, you know, if not. And I know at first it was quite scary because we didn't know what we were going into, but we had to make these changes. But again, you know, our determination, our willpower, and all of that stuff that we knew we where the end game was. You know, we wanted this, we would do anything. We just got on with it, you know. And as time went, things just started getting easier. It became the norm, right? It became just our part of life, and we got on with it. And
I think
got easier
it was just
for us.
overwhelming, wasn't it, when you first start off and you think, oh my god, there's a lot to do. But actually, once you get into it and you understand why you're doing what you're doing, it's actually quite easy. And you just realize that it's a lifestyle change in some instances, but actually you understand why you're doing it, and therefore it's not as difficult as you initially thought it would be.
And I think that it's so true, you know, and it's common for me to hear this, that, you know, people kind of go into it thinking that it will be this level of hard, and it's actually the fact that you need to get your head around the changes that you need to do is what really makes it challenging. Because if you just plan, you know what, let's go, next step, which is eventually what everybody gets down to, right? Because you have the support, you have the guidance from the team, we're kind of pacing you through it. So it just makes it whole lot easier. But when you look at it like the big mountain and you think like, oh my God, am I ever going to be able to climb it, right? Of course, any new task is going to feel that way. I think that, you know, you guys, and it's so refreshing for us when two people are on the same page about doing what it takes, you know, because what happens is there's no conversation. There's no like, you know, oh, this person needs to be doing this, but isn't this person, like, you know, it's just like, okay, we know the goal, we know the mandate, we know what we're here to create. Now we just need to like step by step do it, right? And for you guys, I mean, there were so many different things that were uncovered as a result of proper diagnostics and, you know, going to look for those answers. So it obviously adds to the work to be done pile, because you know, there's just things that were found. So what were some of the things that surprised you? What were some of the things that you, from unexplained to, oh, okay, not so unexplained after all? What were some of the findings?
So I think for us, I had an underactive thyroid, which it was one of those things, like you said earlier on, my thyroid was deemed to be normal, my thyroid levels, and actually they weren't at all. So that was one of the big things for me. We uncovered infections, didn't we?
Obviously, the
can't even remember now.
Sperm
DNA
fragmentation was low. I think the one thing we definitely learned was in this process we had to be better than the norm. It had to be optimal, as we've discussed and through this process. So we had to almost be the best version of ourselves in every area of fertility that we could, and that was absolutely the aim, and that's what we achieved, obviously, at the end as well, and even early on. But we did discover, my sperm had an infection, so we used natural. And again, the great thing, I think the other pull for this particular course and program was the fact that, you know, there were naturopaths and the people that wanted to help us, what's the word? Kind of help us with whatever ailments and issues that we had naturally, rather than using medication and any of that abrasive kind of approach to this. And I think that was definitely the other reason why we
just
picked up on that.
More supportive as well. You go to clinics and things like IVF fertility clinics, and you're just a number sometimes. And actually, this whole program was just so reassuring. You were talking, to someone who really understood what was going on with you. And it wasn't just hey, let's throw an immune protocol to every single patient that comes in, or, let's try this or let's try that. It was actually specific to us, and obviously that was the other thing as well, obviously immune issues for us as well.
There was a lot. I mean, from like as I go through the technical notes, I'm like, okay, we found this and we found it. So there were obviously there were nutritional deficiencies, there were hormonal imbalances that were getting in the way. There was autoimmunity, and there was lots of different presentations of autoimmunity that was coming up, right? And so we needed to really figure out, okay, how do we support the whole body? Because see, what happens often is that people will find one area that is affected in terms of symptoms, and will forget that that area is actually linked to every other area within the body, and so in your particular situation, with the types of immunological components that were being found, including NK cells and all of these other things, there were other mechanisms going on underlying in the system that were affecting the ability to conceive. So hence why for miscarriages, it's not for no reason that somebody goes through 4 miscarriages and experiences multiple failures in terms of cycles. There's always going to be something that we need to uncover in terms of that, so that was really a big important part of this entire process for you guys. But what were some things that you perhaps, were there any other things that I didn't mention that improved along the way?
I think our mindset generally, whilst we've been doing a lot of reading, like Sam said, about, the law of attraction and all of that, I think this whole program just changed our thinking. Like you always say, you've got to almost believe that you're pregnant. You're already, there having a baby, and you're bringing that baby in to the world. That was a big part for me. I used to visualize, oh my God, I used to constantly visualize, holding that baby for the first time, being in the labor unit, being, there giving birth, and just feel the emotions and everything. It was just, I think for me, emotionally, it was a big, big thing. That support was so important. And also it made us, well, on my part, because I felt quite alone in the journey. I know he was always, Sandra was always there supporting the process, but I didn't always tell him how I was feeling. So I felt quite lonely at times. So actually being on the program together and doing it all together, making all those changes together, doing all the reading together, all of that, it made us feel like we were actually working as a team towards that goal. And we had all those results, by the way, within 3 months, I think, of being on the program. Which
isn't that interesting? 7 years of infertility, recurrent miscarriages, and it took 3 months to actually get to the bottom of what's going on.
That's it.
And just to add to that, I think having come to you and the team, the way you diagnosed us, it was all very structured. There was reason. There was, just the whole kind of thought process behind it as well. It made sense as to what and why. And, in fact, I remember one of your colleagues, naturopaths, came to us and said, this is happening to your sperm, or this happened. And we were thinking, actually, we took supplements at one time, or I was taking something. Do you remember the, what's that powder called?
Proxy.
Proxy, right. So Proxy I was taking Proxeed, and what does that do again? Just helps with the health of the sperm and stuff.
Mhm.
And I remember we naturally, Hema had a positive
we naturally
pregnancy.
conceived.
We naturally
shortly
conceived.
after he was taking that, actually.
But we never picked up on that because there's a million other million things that could potentially have caused that.
And you just don't put two and two together when you're going through this whole thing yourself. And actually to
Yeah.
have a third party there to kind of put all the pieces of the jigsaw together for us in a way, just helps everything make a bit more sense. And you kind of go, oh, that's why that happened.
So yeah, when we got into the program, and I think some diagnosis was done around the sperm and stuff, and then it just clicked. Like, oh my god, that's because I was taking Proxeed at the time, and you know, we had that positive conception and stuff, and it just made sense, and everything started to slowly but surely come together as to why certain things had happened or not happened. Obviously, in terms of, you know, having a pregnancy, but you know, it was so well done. And again, you know, I strongly believe, you know, the natural kind of healing side of things and whatnot was the big pull as well, and it was working, you know.
I mean, you know, on that note, in terms of your, you know, after you started the program, which is not when you were necessarily taking that supplement, but after you started the program, we had to begin, prior to treating infections, a 37% DNA fragmentation reading. And that dropped to 3.7%. So literally, it's just like an incredible change from also understanding, okay, you see, it's not one thing. And this is why perhaps where you were linking, you know, like we've taken the supplement, that's improved it. And yes, it could. And there was still more that needed to be uncovered. So isn't that interesting how, you know, often when people come to me and they're not quite there yet, it's usually because there are other things that are underlying that haven't been picked up because they're just not part of standard workups, right? To be able to uncover these things, but that make this level of difference, you know, on what else is going on. So it's so critical, so important to really dive deep.
And it wasn't just the fertility side of things, Gabriella. I had a skin condition, autoimmune skin condition, that magically disappeared just, you know, after starting the program. And all the doctors were like, oh no, you know, it may go, it may not, it may go and come back, you know, because it's an autoimmune condition. They couldn't pinpoint the reason. They could, you know, I tried a number of different treatments, nothing worked. And then just changing, you know, our diets, our kind of nutritional profile, all of that, it just made a massive difference, and it just magically disappeared. So
Isn't it
it's
incredible?
not just about babies, right? This is about health generally as well, and that's
absolutely
felt so much better. You know,
I mean, you can't beat that, right? That's the thing. And this is the one thing that I often say to people, because people come to me and they typically are multi-systemically challenged, right? There's lots of systems in the body that are not working optimally, and they're having symptoms in various places and in various ways, and they don't feel at their best. And then, you know, they come to me and they say, I really want to do this because I want to have a baby. But it will be a bonus if my health improves and we're healthier at the end, even if it doesn't happen. The one thing I can always come back to about this is that, listen, I can never guarantee a baby because we can't, right? There's like, we don't know what's going to happen, even though in 2025 or, you know, nowadays, we pretty much can, with a very high level of certainty, if somebody is willing to put in enough time, energy, effort, and money, they will end up with a baby. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how. And that can happen, you know, much more so than when I first started doing this work 24 years ago. You know, like back then, there was absolutely no guarantee at all, even if you're willing to put in energy, time, effort, money to the outcome, that it would happen. These days, it's you know, you're really up there in a 98%, you know, of chances, if not higher. But the one thing that I know I can always guarantee is that people will be healthier. and they will probably feel the healthiest they have ever felt in their life. That is a very easy guarantee to be able to make, if of course they're willing to put in the effort, because we also know that there are different levels of consistency and implementation and um, contribution that each partner is willing to make. That will also dictate how they respond, how their bodies respond, and of course how the outcome unfolds. But I think that because you guys were so determined to do the things that were required, obviously the results speak for themselves. So tell me, in terms of so then, we found these things, we addressed the things that needed to be addressed. What happened next?
Well, eventually we got our babies.
You skipped a few pieces here, babies. How did that happen? I mean, gosh, I need more details than just we got our babies.
Can I just say one really important thing about health?
Of course.
And I think, although you've mentioned our health obviously improved through this program, I think the other most important thing for us as well was that we were almost creating a healthy environment for having a healthy child. And that for me was even more kind of a bonus or even more important than just providing us with that help. But obviously we were the environment, right? So
100%.
That is something else I definitely want to kind of get across as well, that you guys helped us not only become healthier for ourselves, but actually then have that environment to have a healthy baby. And we've spoken to so many people about this program and how, not only are you helping us to get pregnant, but you're actually going to bring into this world a healthy child. And the long-term future of that, and the implications of that and all the rest of it are just going to add that much more to having a wonderful child.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that.
But health-wise.
No. I think it makes such a huge difference. In fact, when I first started doing this work back in 2001, like back then, my whole idea was that I wanted to help make the world a better place, one healthier baby at a time, one healthier baby family, prospective parents, family, and baby at a time. And and what was really interesting at that time, that I was really focused on making sure that I was helping people with the preconception stage so that they could do that. But what really surprised me in that process is how little people think about doing these things when there is no problem that is identified. And so it's only when things haven't been easy that people start thinking about, okay, yeah, sure, I want a baby, but I also want to do the things that I can do to improve the health of that child. Which is kind of like a little bit sad to me, thinking about the general population, because in the general population, most people conceive without trying. In fact, it's the drunken one night stands that we most hear about. It's like, oops, wasn't trying, got pregnant, and it's kind of like, oh my God, how sad that is. That, and it's funny because I do a lot of patient education and, just public health education on Instagram. And I recently put up a post about alcohol and the effects of alcohol on fertility and implantation failure and all of these things. And of course, invariably, you're going to get the chick with 5 children who basically says, oh, this is BS, And I go, yes, it is. For 95% of the population, they don't ever have to think about this at all. But then you get the 1% of the population for whom the multiple failed IVF cycles, the multiple miscarriages, all of the things that you guys and many of our patients go through. It's not enough just to continue following standard protocol because it's not working, right? And so we have to really then dive deep and figure out, okay, what else is there? But it's really interesting, the mindset, that I see that is very different between exactly what you're saying, Sanjay, like at this point, and you totally understand. And actually, I want to ask you, Hema, going back to something you said earlier in the conversation today, it's like we were trying and, after 3 months, I knew that there was going to be an issue. Like, tell me, what
I don't know.
Explain yourself.
This sixth sense, I think, or
I'm quite intuitive, but I've always kind of known my body. So my mum, literally, she was one of those people, right? She got pregnant almost just at the blink of an eye. She just looked at my dad and fell pregnant. And I always thought that would happen for me. And and we were traveling, actually. We'd gotten married. After a few years, we were like, cool, let's go travel the world. So we were traveling, and we talked about trying for a baby. And I was just like, yeah, let's start trying whilst we're away, because, we're relaxed. It's the right environment. No stress, So we started trying, and I expected to be pregnant by the time we got home. And when we won, it was after that 3 months, and I went straight to the doctors and I said, look, we're trying to conceive. Please, can you tell me what tests you can do? And they were like, oh, we don't really do any tests right now. You've got to wait at least a year. And I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like, surely why wouldn't I want to know that everything's okay before I try and conceive? Anyway,
because the healthcare system can't afford that. It's not within the scope,
Yeah, but it's depressing, right? And I just had a feeling that something wasn't quite right, and I couldn't ever put my finger on it, because I didn't know enough back then. But I just knew, and it was frustrating because I wasn't being supported by my GP, the IVF clinics, to get to the bottom of what exactly those problems were. And instead ended up with an unexplained diagnosis, unexplained infertility diagnosis, which is crazy.
And so after 7 years of, everything that you went through, obviously you did the program. How long before you guys started trying to conceive for your first?
What, during the program? Oh, it was a while. It took us longer than expected because we had so many things that were uncovered as we went through the process. So it was probably, a year?
Yeah, I think it might have been almost a year. If not a year.
Maybe a year and a little bit more. You can probably tell us better looking at our notes, to be honest.
It's about that. It's about that, which is not unusual, like in terms of when things, if you imagine this, 7 years of trying to get pregnant and then you actually do it within a year, well, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, right.
And we're getting healthier, so working in tandem.
And it's funny because like I actually once had a lady who was trying for 19 years and she conceived within 5.5 months.
Wow.
And after multiple failed IVF cycles, things that didn't work, she had a natural conception after that period of time, already at 43, giving birth at 44. And, that was really curious to me because it showed me that the correlation of time doesn't exactly relate very specifically to how long somebody might be trying when they get into the program, because there are things that usually need to be worked through and found and understood. And for some people, just putting in those very essential foundations will be enough. And for other people, you just need to keep digging, and so it's really just, that is very different from case to case. But what you guys went through, I think, is pretty reasonable. And so when you finally learned that you were pregnant, but tell me that story, because you told me the heartbreaking story of getting the call to say that you were not, that last time. And so how did this next, after you've done the program, what was that like?
I think when I found out I was pregnant, I already knew. I knew when we were going through the process, and it was IVF, so we went through, we had treatment to get to where we went, to get to where we wanted to be. But I remember I was sat there waiting for the embryo transfer, and I'd said to him before, we're going to pick up our baby today. Both times. And we sat there and they showed you the picture of the embryo on the screen, and I was like, that's our baby. And we're bringing them home, baby. We're bringing them home.
Now, again, having gone through so many IVF cycles, trying to get ourselves in the same mindset, be positive about it and stuff. yeah, I've always looked at Hem for that intuition kind of feeling about, is this right? It's not wrong. And she's, most times than not, she has been right. And, just that positivity around her about this is it, this is ours, and whatnot. I mean, it almost felt like just another time of doing an IVF cycle. But yeah, there was something different about it this time, for sure.
And it was literally, we knew that this was the time it was going to work. And to be fair, we were on the program for a while. Right?
And to be fair, you did so much work, to get to that point, addressing all of those immunological components and, everything else that was found. So, we often, when we get to a point of conception attempts, because obviously couples have different ways of going about treatment, because some people, we can't stop them from trying, but there's lots of different variations. But typically, we will basically be saying to a couple, okay, now you're ready to start trying, let's go. And we are only ever going to say, all right, let's go when we are really confident. Obviously, we want the most direct, fastest path to baby, always, for various reasons. But obviously, we know that by the time people come to us, they want babies. So we're like, okay, how do we get the most direct path to that outcome possible? But we don't ever get in a place where we're like, oh no, we have to rush this through, because we know that's not usually what gives us the outcome that we're wanting. And so, by the time we work with a couple to say, all right, we're good to go, this is the time, we're very confident that that's going to be working toward a positive pregnancy test, so I think that there is that additional extra little bit of like, okay, I think we're good to go, So the first time that happened, then you knew.
So
and when was it confirmed?
And I think, when you go for that pregnancy test, there was always, I'm never one to wait for someone to tell me it's worked or not usually. I'm always like, I want to know. So I did it the night before. And it was so strange because with Saia, I just lost my mum's mum, my nan, and we'd gone to spread her ashes. And I remember vividly, it was a Sunday morning. We were going to Windsor to spread her ashes with the rest of the family on a boat and blah, blah, blah. And I did the test in the morning, didn't I? But weirdly, oh my God, I forgot this bit. The night before, because I knew I was going to do the test in the morning, because I was like, I need to know one way or another, right? I'm not holding out.
Yeah.
The night before, I had a dream. Well, it felt like a dream, but it wasn't really a dream. So I was lying in bed, I was asleep, and I suddenly, when the lights come on and you can see like the shadow on your eyelids change color. So it was a bright light in the room. And I literally opened my eyes and there was this bright pink light above me. And it literally shone all the way down onto me. And I was just like, I know, it's a girl.
It's like, hi.
Yeah, exactly. And then I closed my eyes and I was like, this is really weird. And I closed my eyes and I opened them again and that light wasn't there, but I was just like, that to me was just like, and I really wanted to go, guess what just happened?
I didn't even think you told me that.
I'm sure I did. I can't what I've done.
I must have forgotten that. Okay.
But I just knew. So then when I did the test in the morning, there's always that slight bit of doubt that's always creeping in. But I literally looked at the pregnancy test stick and I was just like,
but there's always the doubt. I mean, from my perspective as well. I think, did you tell me them all?
Yeah, I did.
You did, right. Okay. So with all this time where it's, we've had those false dawns or kind of false dawns, I guess, where, yes, we've had a positive pregnancy, but then it hasn't led to anything. There was always that doubt in my mind. And, I think for me, at least, it was just keeping grounded, just to say, okay, one step at a time. Yes, we are going in the right direction here. Yes, we're doing everything. Everything was there.
Typical man,
laid
though, right? I was all
the
consumed
foundations.
by that point. I was like, this is it.
But again, I mean, for me,
Cautious,
even when we had the scan, I was just like, I am not getting overly excited yet. Even when we saw,
The
after
heartbeat. Oh my God, the first time, 6 weeks.
6
when
weeks,
we had
yeah.
the heartbeats.
I mean, for us, after the whatever number of years, 11 years, I think, was it 10 years or 11 years, to actually get to that point, I was building up. I wanted to explode with emotion. But I almost had to wait 3 months to know for sure that we are actually having a child. And
especially when you've had the miscarriages, and it is concerning, I guess. I think, for lack of a better word, that you're kind of like, oh, is this real?
yeah.
But then was it 3 months that it felt real, or was it? Some dads tell me that it was when they heard the baby cry in the delivery room that it felt
Right.
real.
Well, okay.
So when did it feel real for you?
3 months. Yeah,
3
definitely.
months.
I think once we had the 3 months, we knew there was a living embryo baby at 3 months. I don't know what you want to call it technically then, but yeah, for me, that was the point. I knew we were going to have a child, and that was the point where I just wanted to scream and shout. Like, it was happening already inside of me, but I just wanted to get it out there. It was just that, you just felt that weight off your shoulder massively fall off. And yeah, I mean, I think for me, emotionally, I was only able to let it out when I was trying to tell my family. And, I know they'd been waiting for such a long time in coming. And the support we've had with our family is just incredible. Both sides.
But the announcement we made was just incredible. That we did it on a little lottery scratch card, and it came up with
3 babies.
We're having a baby.
Oh yeah, so yeah, like you're meant to find 3 of the same.
Yes.
I said we're having a baby times 3 times. So it was actually scratch cards for revealing your baby. And we had some funnies because we'd given it to our aunts and uncles, and I think one of them felt really embarrassed, thinking, "We're not having a child."
She's like in her 50s.
Why
is
she saying,
"We're not having a baby"?
Is there something that I don't know? Almost to that point. Oh god, it was so much. And looking back at it, it's so funny.
It was hilarious, wasn't it? And then it was our sister-in-law that kind of went, "Hang on a minute, you're having a baby?" And we were like, "Yay!"
Oh yeah, my sister-in-law clicked onto it. My parents love scratch cards, but never clicked onto it, unfortunately.
Oh really? Oh, that is so funny.
She picked up on it straight away, and for me, although it was a great thing to do in terms of revealing, for me, I just let out the emotions that I've been keeping for the last 10 whatever years, and that was quite a lot. That was a really, really big deal for me, and it just allowed me to come back to myself, be the person that I want to be, and be happy about it, and something to now look forward to, where we can actually now think about starting our family and stuff. But it was huge, massive
Amazing.
massive moment
So
for us.
Saya was our first little baby, and then I think that we need to, you mentioned babies. So what happened next?
So we still had 2 embryos banked, and we were like, well, we wanted to come back to the program, so we came back, and we were like, right, do we just transfer an embryo and see what happens, or do we go through the whole process again to make sure that what we're doing is kind of optimal level, we're not going to fail on that embryo transfer type thing? So we did it all over again. This time it didn't take as long, thankfully.
Yeah, no. Second time around is kind of like...
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that we stuck to
the program.
The program kind of, whatever we were doing supplement-wise and all the diet, lifestyle changes, everything remained even after we had Saya. And I was just going to say, we always dreamt that we would have 2. You know, that was our dream. We knew we wanted to, and we did want a boy and a girl, just like many other couples.
A
girl and boy in that order, then fine as well. Yeah, actually, that's a really interesting point. That we wanted it in that order as well.
Isn't that interesting? Anyway, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you wanted a girl and a boy.
In that order as well.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's what we got. So yeah.
We kind of had Saya, you know, we knew at what point we wanted to start trying again for our second child.
Yeah, it was the following year.
That's when we came back to the program, and as Hema said, you know, we started again.
And then the following year after that, we had Omi.
And then, yeah, I mean, first time of doing so, 1 embryo transfer, went to the same clinic. Again.
And again, we just knew.
Did you
like,
feel?
We just knew. Like, again, you know, at the embryo transfer point, we were like, baby number 2. This is our, you know, this family is complete. And by the way, before we even had the babies, we did get a dog too.
I have nobody here today. You know, I have no babies and no dogs. What is happening?
Well, he's sleeping. Our fur baby, as Hema refers him to. He's just snoozing over here next to us.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my God. So, you know, like it's so incredible, you know, like 7 years, 4 miscarriages, lots of ups and downs and heartbreak. And, you know, it's almost, you make it sound so easy, you know, that you had Saia and then you had Om, you know, it's just like, oh my God, that was just such a breeze. Such a breeze. But I know that there were some, I mean, it's such a beautiful realization, and I think place to arrive at, right, where you're like, okay, we got our dream. But I also know that wasn't all you got. I think that there were, you know, quite lots of changes for both of you throughout this entire process, that it almost kind of reminds me of the thing that I often tell patients, you know, that, and even in my own life, when I look at when I want to quote unquote achieve something, right? And I often reframe that into, okay, who do I need to become in order to, you know, arrive at that particular outcome? And for you guys, I think that the becoming and the arrival was kind of like going hand in hand. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about those things for both of you? Because both of you had those big life changes.
We completely forgot about that bit. So before we had Saia, I left my job.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, this whole program inspired me way before that. Just as we started the program, I think it just inspired me to go, do you know what? I don't want to do what I'm doing forever. I was working in human resources in a huge global organization. And I was just like, I've been doing that job for 20 years. Do I want to do this forever? And the answer was always no, but I never knew what I wanted to do. And actually, when I joined the program, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to work and do the sort of work that you guys do, because it is life-changing. And for us, it absolutely was. I left my job just before we went to have the embryo transfer with Saia. Sanj left his job as well. We bought a house, like our dream home. It just literally, there was so much that happened in the space of about a week. It was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the whole kind of mindset of the law of attraction and all of this stuff that we picked up on, I think I was just going to go back on what you said about your appeal to naturopath. We went on a detox in Malta, and that's when Hema and I first got introduced to naturopaths and people that understood nutrition really well and how to repair your gut, for instance, right? And I think that was the focus with those detox retreats. But that really inspired her, and I think that started off with the seed, the initial planting of that seed. And then when we came across you, she was just like, oh my God, this is what I want to do, you know. Really took that inspiration. But so I've forgotten
we were talking about just before we had Saia and you leaving your job. And
so
it was all literally in a
I left my job in banking for 20 years of working for them. Took voluntary redundancy. we'd already booked the transfer with the clinic, and gone and done the transfer. And then we got a call from our agent who said that having gone through the auction and not actually got the house of our dreams, that the people that had won the auction actually pulled out, and we were offered the home. And we are now, right now, having that call from the home of our dreams. And yeah, it's just crazy what was going on. And I think almost at that point, it made me realize that, oh my God, this law of attraction is working. It's doing something. This wouldn't have happened normally. This is extraordinary. And I think having the transfer, you know, as Hema said about her, you know, her night vision of this light beaming down her and stuff, all of this stuff starting to click. And it just came about in one
within a week,
short space of time. It just happened. Crazy. And I couldn't believe it. And it was just, and it's so wonderful that you can tell a story like that, because as you said, you know, we could have been fallen pregnant first time of trying, and it just would have been a normal.
And you wouldn't appreciate it as much
wouldn't have,
as well. We wouldn't have been so
we've
grateful
always
as
said
we are
that.
now.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have changed our lives and been as happy and content and full of gratitude as we are now if we'd just conceived with the blink of an eye, like my mum did.
Yeah. And all of this stuff in hindsight now, like, you know, the health of the child, as I talked about, and all of that stuff. Like, when we set out, we were just like, that's how you have babies. You just conceive, and it's job done, and you move on, and that's how you see it from the normal world, right? And the people that have kids, that's how it happened for them, right? You might not know any other way. But now, having gone through the program and the journey and everything else, in hindsight, absolutely, it would be very, very different if I was to give advice to someone else, you know, about what the benefits are of having a healthier child, and, you know, doing.
And what advice would you give if, you know, if you were to say, like, from your own perspective, not so much about, you know, like, how would you perhaps advise yourself if that opportunity ever arose? You know, like, what is it that you would say?
So there's a few things I'd say. I'd say take control of your own health. Don't take no for an answer. Kind of make sure that you keep digging, keep asking questions, be 100% accountable. Don't just rely on, you know, the medical profession to give you the answers. Like, ask those questions, because the thing is, IVF is a wonderful thing if and when you need it, but that's not the be all and end all, as we know now. If you ask the right questions, if you do the hard work yourself, then it makes such a difference. So I would definitely say those things. But also for us, I think, like we keep saying, we knew that eventually we would become parents. We knew wholeheartedly, and that faith never wavered. You know, even when people were like, oh, just adopt, or don't you think you should just stop trying now? You know, it drove
the well-meaning advice.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, no. Yeah, I was like, no, because we know deep down, we always knew it would happen. We didn't know, this is what I always say, didn't know when, we didn't know how, but we knew we would become parents. We knew that those children would come into our lives at some point in time, and we wanted to do, like Sanj said, whatever we could to get there. And we saw that whole journey and our whole experience as a learning curve. You know, like I said, our lives have completely flipped 180 as a result. And we are so happy and grateful that we've had that learning experience, because without any of this, we wouldn't be where we are today, basically.
Yeah, and just to add, I think for us, obviously, me being that pillar, kind of a support pillar for Hema, I had to be as strong as I could mentally, support her when, you know, we had a negative outcome, and, you know, we were fallen and broken and all of that stuff. just to be there to support in the best way you can. I mean, Hema did say, obviously I was there, but not quite there with her. But, still I did, I was obviously trying to make that difference and pick her up. So for us, yes, we were really determined. We persevered. We also, I was just going to say, the other advice I'd say is the optimum health. I think that was really key. So, having come onto your program, you made us understand that, the standard kind of, yes, doctors saying, yeah, you're fine, you're normal. Normal's not good enough. And I think that was definitely the other thing that we learned, that we had to be the best of ourselves. And that obviously helped with the child being healthy and ourselves being healthy, right? So, we achieved a lot more things just because of that. And yeah, I think the other thing I would probably say is, if it's your dream, just keep going. It's not about keep going just to do the same old thing. You want to be doing something different, or having that kind of direction and guidance to say, all right, well, through your program, at least you told us, and it was all very structured and made sense as well. And I think as soon as we got that from you guys, we were just like, yes, this all makes sense. We know what we're doing now. We know why things are happening. So it was almost like we kind of understood it a lot better. And it just allowed us to carry on with you, because, there wasn't a point ever that we thought, well, that doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah.
While we're doing it, everything did. Everything. And for 7 years,
we like to make sense.
Well, for 7 years, our doctors wouldn't. So, or help us trying to get to that point. So, it was definitely that as well, which I think was brilliant.
I think in hindsight, if I knew then what I know now, our journey would have been very, very different. As in, I wish I had noticed you all those Facebook ads.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I know.
Definitely.
The one thing I hear practically every single time I have this conversation is exactly that. I wish I'd found you sooner.
Yeah.
And I often reply to, you found me exactly when you needed it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just so wonderful. And look, for me personally, it is such a privilege and honor to be a part of your family, and to have been able to put together an entire process that supported you arriving at exactly where you arrived, exactly when you needed to arrive at it, in the way that you did. And I think that, I think that it's pretty fair to say that I don't show up for no reason. I show up to do the work and to ensure that couples like you get the support that you need, because sadly, most people don't. In the general population, when things aren't straightforward and aren't easy, unfortunately, the experience of most people is that they continue to go around in circles, and many run out of time entirely to have a baby, either because they're drained out entirely of their finances to be able to continue treatment, or they just they no longer have the capability, bandwidth, potential, to be able to do so. And so it really is, when I get to have these conversations, such a wonderful reminder for me of the difference that we make in the world. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of your family, for sharing your story. And it's such a privilege.
And thank you for you. I guess you're like an angel that's come into our lives to help us complete our family. So we cannot express how incredibly grateful we are to you and the team for what you've brought to us. Not just the babies, but just everything that we've changed in our lives is because of you guys, to be honest.
It's been definitely a lot more than just getting the end goal. And we're forever grateful. All the people we came across within your team, absolutely lovely, amazing people. We had laughs and jokes, and everything was positive, and it was just great to be on there. and we still miss those people that we
Yeah, we do.
used to speak to on a
You know
regular
what's
basis.
so funny?
and-
We still speak to.
It is hilarious to me because now we have people who have been through the program as patients to have babies, literally coming back to us going, okay, can we just rejoin just for our health? And so we've actually had to say yes to quite a few because it's like, yes, sure. It's actually it makes me think that maybe in another 20 years we might have a general health program just to support our patients through their next life
Makes sense.
stages. Yeah, absolutely. But guys, we can't end this conversation without your beautiful words for your wonderful children, Saia and Om. So let's wrap it up with that message for them when they grow up and get to see this conversation, that we're having today from a completely different place and a completely different light. What words would you like to leave them with today?
We're going to read them, right? You've got a little message and so have I. So from my part, I want them to know that whilst it's taken us a little longer than expected to get you both here, the journey has literally been life-changing. Our magical rainbow babies, you are both so uniquely special and bring us so much joy. You cannot, I can't express how much. They're just hilarious. I say this actually, but I'm not sure if I would. I'd wait just as long for you time and time again if I had to, although maybe not so long.
You would have found us sooner, so
yeah.
so long.
I can't honestly explain how incredible my love is for you both. It's like nothing you could ever imagine. My heart so deeply feels that love every time I give you, we call them squashy cuddles. You've completed our family, made my life worth living again, and made our dreams come true. Thank you so much, Gabriella. Thank you, universe, for bringing you both to us. Thank you both for choosing us as your parents. We are so blessed to be your parents. Love you.
You really are doing it today, aren't you, Hema?
Sorry. This is me normally. I'm such a softie, it's ridiculous.
Well, she cries at critics as well, of any kind of soppy movie you might have. Right, okay, so my message simply read, when Mummy and Daddy got married, our dream was to have a family, girl and a boy. Never in our wildest thoughts did we think we would have to go on this incredible journey to get you. There were disappointments, heartbreaks, and mental battles to overcome, helping each other to get back up and go again to keep our hopes and dreams alive. To have done this for 11 years is a testament to how much we wanted you both to fulfill our duties and our dreams in our lifetime. What we eventually achieved was bringing our miracle babies into this world, two beautiful and extraordinary human beings who exceeded all expectations. You are our all, our everything, and we will provide you with everything you need to become the greatest humans to set foot on this earth. We love you with all our hearts and more. God bless you both, and a sincere thank you to the universe and to the program and Gabriella. So thank you. No, honestly,
Thank you so much.
Those words, I mean, they're just words, right? But there was so much more, and obviously we've discussed a lot of these things. But only Hema and I actually know, what this whole journey meant to us, and everything that went on. And even now, trying to reflect, even with just 1 hour, I think it'd take weeks and months
We could talk about
to everything.
forever.
We could talk about it forever, as the saying goes. It could be. I mean, I've always almost said that we could write a book about it, which we probably could. But there you go.
Guys, I am so grateful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think that it's such a journey when things aren't easy, and for others to be able to see themselves in your story and what else is possible. It's like the 4-minute mile. It's knowing that even though all hope may have been lost at some point, there may be, I often say, when there is that sense that you're not quite done, it's probably because you're not. And if there needs to be a little flicker of light in a particular direction, to feel like, oh, maybe I need to do a little bit more, or I need to look at this from a different perspective. You guys have certainly provided that, for couples listening. And so thank you so much. And I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Give our best to the team and all those that were involved. Hopefully we'll meet them.
Well, we would love to
Yes,
come over.
you guys have to absolutely. Like, you have to come to Australia. You'll get to meet all of us.
We'd love that at some point.
We'll let the kids grow up a little bit, and then hopefully we can get ourselves over there.
Exactly. They can see that that's really the beginning of their story, all
exactly.
the way on the other side of the universe. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.